Why Comstice Wallboard? Comstice Wallboard started as a single table that shows calls in queue, all lists in queue, and it evolved way beyond what you should expect from a Wallboard application. We are showing real-time and daily historical data visualization. We visualize the data, and in a very appealing way, I would say. And we offer easy to create and share dashboard functionality. And we also, even though this is a Wallboard, which might be seen as a reporting solution, we also have the option to monitor individual calls in queue and manually routing a particular queue to a destination of your choice, internal or external destination. We've got the Wallboard Mobile app for better accessibility from outside the desktop environment. Wallboard Ticker desktop app we will go through. We also have rule-based dynamic SMS notifications. You don't have to have a workforce optimization solution to have that feature. You can have this with Comstice Wallboard. And in terms of the licensing, we license based on the number of agents that you might want to report. We don't have any license or the session concurrent session limit, so you can have as many sessions as you want. Obviously, within the technical limits, you might need to upgrade the memory, etc. And then briefly the roadmap. We want to move forward with the third-party data. So starting with the RESTful APIs and the GraphQL language, we would like more seamless. Today we can integrate, but there's some development required, but we want to make this more seamless so IT departments of the organizations can do it themselves. We also will offer drill downs, such as when you see calls in queue, you can double click and you can see the agents, list of agents who might take that call, who might have that skill, and then their current state. And that might help the team leaders to manage their queues, as well as, let's say, an hourly chart for the call volumes. You can drill down and you can look at for the particular hour which might be peaking in the abandoned calls. You can look at which particular queue is getting most of the abandoned calls. We will look at the limited scope historical data visualization. Obviously, historical data might be quite big. So in a given, with a limited scope, we want to visualize it without exporting the data, without the need of exporting the data to our Wallboard server. And then the user-built dashboards, you will be able to access it from the mobile app as well. Today, mobile app is relatively static in terms of the views. And then obviously we are working heavily on the Genesis and Avaya side of things. Without further ado, let's start the Wallboard application. Let's start with the interface, the web interface. So when we first built the Comstice Wallboard, we had this, as I said, as I mentioned, a large table with lots of numbers, lots of rows, lots of columns. It's not really easy to see what's happening here. So we soon realized that we need to do something different. We need to do something more visual. So we moved to the ideas of the visualization of the data. So this view, we call it a box view. It's one of the first views that we've created. Each box has its own settings. As you can see, there's a setting button, and you can select the queues, you can select the agents if it's an agent-related box, and then there are some additional controls. If it's an hourly chart, for example, you can set the start and end time so that if you're not working 24/7, you can see, you can look at the particular working hours that you're interested, like maybe 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., etc. And then instead of showing a large table with lots of queues, which might probably have no calls waiting, we created this dynamic queuing, dynamic table where it brings the queues which have active calls waiting, and then you can also set visual alerts based on the threshold 1 and threshold 2 values of the longest waiting. This was obviously 2.5 years ago. It was very interesting. It's very visually appealing. This goes red when there's a call in queue. Customers quite liked it, but then they started to ask questions like, can we move these around? Can we add more key performance indicators? Can we have a different layout, etc.? We soon realized that we need to do something more modular, something more flexible. So up until that point, we were creating lots of purpose-built dashboards. And then we decided to build this widget-based system. In the widget-based system, you've got these layout templates. So if you hover your mouse, you can see each template, what they look like. We also exercise the idea of dynamic layouts, but some browsers couldn't cope with it. Especially, we've got the slideshow effect in case you have multiple dashboards, but a single screen. And with the slideshow effect, it didn't work really well. After a few days, the browser started crashing, etc. But we keep testing, and we will release dynamic layouts when the browsers are ready. So once you select the layout, you've got these plus icons to decorate your layout. And then when you click on those plus icons, you can see a long list of key performance indicators. At this point, I should remind you that this is the UCCX version. And I will also look at the UCCE version. In fact, maybe we should start with the UCCE version. You've got these agent-related layouts in the widgets in the UCCE version, and then obviously the campaign-related stuff. And then in UCCE, there are two types of queuing. There's a call type-based queuing, and there's a precision queuing. So these are call type-related data, and then precision queue related widgets as well. And then some customers, even though they're in call type based queuing, they would like to monitor the skill groups instead of the call types. If that's the case, you've got the skill group based widgets as well. And then there are some other widgets that do not come from the data that doesn't come from the Cisco contact center, but they're like scrolling messages, announcements, etc. And any third-party integration will be listed under this. And you might say, well, this is very nice, but how can I see what they look like? So you've got these, I'll share the web links, but we've got these widget lists. So, excuse me, for UCCE and UCCX. So you can see all the widgets, what they look like, and what the descriptions are. And I will share that towards the end of the session. Let's carry on creating our dashboard. So let me create this one, and then let's pick one of my favorites, top 5, top 10 CS queues. Instead of showing a full list of queues, you can just show these CS queues dynamically based on your selection. You can list the top 5 and top 10 versions, and then you can add also the kind of the total calls in queue, oldest in queue, etc. So let me just pick this one, and then the calls in queue should be somewhere around here. And at this point, let me explain that later. So you can also add your company logo. You can make it light background, dark background. It doesn't have to be like this. Let's save this, and let's see. Let's see what it looks like. So this is our third webinar today, and then once we save, it should come over here. And one of the things that you probably realize is the fonts are a bit small, even though this is created for a large screen. Because it's easy to use, customers use it on a small screen, 13-inch screen, 15-inch screen, 146-inch screen. And occasionally you might need to adjust these font sizes. So you can come here, you can click on the widget title. Using these sliders, you can either adjust the widget title itself, or you can adjust the font of the actual widget, and the same can be done here. You can just adjust this, and then you can also enable the table titles if you want to set some thresholds. And then based on the thresholds, it will be color coded. And you can do this similar thing here and set some thresholds here too. So at this point, it's important to, I think, mention that there are two types of alerts, visual alerts. We visualize the thresholds when they are reached and exceeded. And you can also enable the audio alerts. So when you hit the second threshold, the Wallboard can play an audio file of your choice. Some customers use it, some customers find it a bit noisy, but it's a feature available and it's there. So as I mentioned, you can always change it to light and dark background. Again, in our roadmap, we've got 6 different background options coming. It'll be much more interesting in terms of the background colors. So as I said, it's not just the real-time data. You can also look at the daily historical data. So let's look at what we've got in terms of the daily historical. So we can pull this. We can look at, when we say daily historical, we look at the data from the midnight of that day. So starting from midnight, you can see all the details. So let's have a look, for example, the SLAs. We've got quite a few SLA related widgets. Obviously, SLA thresholds are reversed, so less is worse. So it needs to be less than the first one, so 90% and 80%, and then it'll be color coded. And you can have the daily answer rate, daily abandon rate. Let's pick the abandon rate. Again, you can also adjust the percentage here. Again, this is, it looks like these guys are starting at 7 in the morning. Let's just filter the time. Let's assume that they're working between 7 and 8 p.m. And then let's focus on the particular time of day. So this, again, could be another dashboard. And you might say, well, what about the agents? How can we kind of monitor the agents in different ways? So I'll show you a few agent-related widgets that I find quite interesting. So the first one is this, in its simplest form, it shows each agent, the full name, agent state with a color code, and the state duration. And if they're in not ready state, we don't just say not ready, but we show their reason code. As you know, there are 2 types of reason codes. The reason codes that agent can select, like lunch or break or coffee break, etc., or the reason codes that are set by the Cisco contact centers, UCCE or UCCX, such as new login. As you know, when an agent logs in that day, automatically they are set to not ready, and their reason code is new login. And then when they miss a call while they are in ready state, if they don't answer within 15 seconds, the call is taken back to the queue. And it is marked, agent is marked no time, not ready, with a reroute on no answer reason code, which is again one of the unwanted reason codes. So and in the latest version, we also show the skill group instead of just saying talking. That option is available too. I don't have the very latest. Another one is if you want to see more details about each agent, what they're up to, how many calls they've answered. This is one of them. This shows received calls, answered, abandoned calls. These are the ACD calls, by the way. If you don't want to see ACD calls, there's another widget similar to this, but it shows non-ACD calls and non-ACD time spent, as well as the ACD calls. And then afterwards, talk time, average talk time, along with all the state and the reason code information. The last one that I would like to show you about the agent information is the agent state bars. This became very popular recently, and we built quite a few different versions of that in different shapes and sizes. Agent state bar helps the team leaders to see the snapshot of agent availability during that day as a percentage. So imagine lots of agents log in, log out during the day, but their overall, each bar shows one agent and their overall login time as a percentage, and then what percentage of the time they were logged in, they were not ready, they weren't ready, they weren't talking. So the amber is talking and the purple is work state. Sorry, purple is reserved. The navy is the work state. So you can, as a team leader, you can see very easily who is working hard enough and who is having lots of breaks. It's very easy to see from here. Another one that I would like to show you is how can we communicate and broadcast some messages with the rest of the team, because in a large contact center environment, supervisors, team leaders, excuse me, might want to present some messages, and when they do create those messages themselves, they can create it themselves. And they also have the option to select the priority of the message 1, 2, 3, red, amber, and green. So that will also color code the message. Let's pick a few other widgets here and then decorate our dashboard. So we can put 2 agent-related widgets as well as calls in queue and oldest in queue. Here we show the top 5 agents. There's a top 10, top 20 version as well, based on the number of calls they received. So if you want to visualize that, that's also available. So this could be another view that you might want to utilize. And you might say, well, what happens if I have a big screen, just one big screen with multiple dashboards that I've created? You can come here and run it as a slideshow. So as you can see, there's a slide view option, and you can run these dashboards as a slideshow, and you can set the sliding speed. I think by default it's 7 seconds, and you can, I mean, better not to do less than 5 seconds because it'll be too fast otherwise. And we recommend up to 7 or 8 maximum, because imagine, even though we are not showing dashboard, we are still pulling the data about that dashboard. So browser may not be able to handle all that updates, because each dashboard can have up to 12 widgets. So that can be, especially running after 5-6 days, browser might sometimes they get tired. One of the things that interesting we do, and I don't believe anybody else does, is we can show you the individual calls waiting in the queue. So instead of saying there are 2 calls in the queue, 5 calls in the queue, we can show you who's calling and which number they called. This is the pilot number that triggers the script, and then which queue they ended up with, and what's the wait time. And then based on your business logic, you can also set some flags, like if you recognize the calling number, or if they typed like account number of any identifier, you can put some kind of payment pending, like a VIP customer or an elderly patient, or if CEO is calling the IT help desk, they can mark it as a CEO. And you might say, well, this is nice, but what's the point of seeing the individual calls in queue if you can't take actions on them? That's exactly what we thought. So we, well, one of our customers thought, okay, I admit, you can actually come here and select one of the agents. This list is the current logged in agents who are not in talking state. So they are not talking to someone. We know that because otherwise they wouldn't be on this list. And then you can select and click on save. And then as soon as you do that, we send a message to UCC CVP script or UCCX script, AES script, and we're going to say, take this call out of the queue, dequeue this call, and send this call to the destination of our choice. And it doesn't have to be just agents. It can be any internal or external number that your CUCM can dial. So if it's external, obviously you might want to put your outside code, so call manager can dial. But that's basically the number or the label if you're using UCCE, and that can be used. And we've got a similar one for the callback queues. So if you're using callback queues feature, that can be also shown here. Let's have a look at the Wallboard mobile app. Let's Wallboard Mobile app is available on iPhone and Android only. I think it covers most of the users. And you can in fact download it today. And as you can see, there's a demo mode button on the top left. And you can tap on that demo mode, and it's got some dummy data. So without any Wallboard server, you can actually use it. You can see what it looks like. As I said in the beginning, it's relatively static these days, but we are bringing all these dynamic dashboards that you created or you have been tagged, because there's going to be tagging options. So if I create a dashboard, you don't have to do it. For example, if you're my manager, I can tag you to my dashboard and you can see the same dashboard, and you will be able to see the same dashboard from here too. Today it still gives a lot of information, so you can see the calls in queue, holders in queue, some call volumes, an hourly call distribution of the selected queues. And if you tap, you can see each hour. So if I tap 6 p.m., there's no data. If I tap 1 p.m., there's more data. If I tap 8 a.m., obviously there's less data, etc. And then you can see the table version too. Let me just, you can look at the table version, and then here you have the option to group some queues or see them individually, and then you can see the agent information. And it is also possible to limit which agents and which queues each user is permitted to see. You don't have to be an agent to log in this. You can use your AD account. It is authenticating through the call manager. So because some customers use it outside their network, you might want to restrict that. At this point, I also would like to remind that some people think because we've got a mobile app, we are cloud-based. Comstice Wallboard is not a cloud-based solution. You can run it in the cloud, but mostly, almost 90% of our customers are running in their own private networks. Okay, so these scrolling messages are also visible to see here, and they also come as a screen pop notification. And then you can just log out. Another one that I would like to show you is Wallboard Ticker. Just minimize this. So one of our customers said, well, this is very nice. You've been doing lots of nice things, but we still get some complaints from agents that they haven't seen that there was a calling queue. Can you create an application, the little application that they can monitor their queue? And no matter which active window they've got, this will always sit on top of whatever they've got. And we created this Wallboard Ticker. And we just show very basic information, just calls in queue, list in queue, and service level. And in fact, you can run it in horizontal, you can run it in vertical, you can move it around. You can say, well, actually, I'm not really into the service level. You can just minimize that. You can put some thresholds, as you can see, they're color coded. You can also say, well, actually, I'm not into calls in queue either. As long as this is non-zero, it gives me the indication that there's a call in queue, and if I'm available, I will take the call. So Wallboard Ticker is, again, you don't have to install it. It's a click and run application, as you can see. There's an installer version as well in case you want, but you don't need to install it. You don't need an admin right to run it. We know that there are lots of limitations on agent PCs. It just communicates with the Wallboard server. And if you're using for UCCE, it combines the precision queues and the call type queues together. So when you see 5 calls in queue, that combines the call types and the precision queue queues that you might have selected. And based on that selection, it shows the oldest queue, whatever the maximum waiting time of the selected queues of your combination. At this point, I'd like to check, see if there are any questions. Let me just check quickly. So one question is what the platform that we are running. The platform that we're running is a Linux-based server, Wallboard server. We can run any Linux version. We are not Linux dependent. And then what we've got is we've got an OVA file pre-built, pre-installed. You can easily download it and you can run it in your own environment, and then we do a quick WebEx and finalize the configuration. And you can also have the high availability. High availability works in the active mode. So you have multiple active servers. It's not like a SQL failover replication type of scenario. And also, we don't store much data. We only store the preferences of the user. That's why we don't need too much disk space. We don't need too much resources. It's 4 gigabytes of RAM, 10 gigabytes of disk space, and 2 virtual CPUs. It can easily handle up to 500 agents kind of environment. Another question is, how do we integrate with the third-party applications? So the third-party application integration today is, again, we can either go straight into their SQL database or a non-SQL database, or if they've got APIs, it's relatively straightforward, and we can create the widgets of your choice. And we are not really browser or the platform dependent. So any modern platforms like Salesforce, ServiceNow, and other CRM-based platforms or ticketing systems, we can even read data from a CSV file over the network. So it really doesn't matter where the data is. And in the roadmap, we will let users to create their own widgets using the RESTful APIs in JSON format, and they will be able to create without any Comstice intervention, and they will be able to save it. So this is info@comstice.com, Wallboard trial server. You can download it from here, tinyurl Comstice Wallboard UCCE or tinyurl Comstice Wallboard UCCX. And then you've got the Comstice Wallboard widgets, Cisco UCCE, UCCX. Everything is under comstice.com/wallboard, and you can download all these things from there. If you're confused or you couldn't find what you're looking for, please do send us an email, because most of the features that we've got today in any of Comstice solutions, they are purely, almost 90-95% are customer feedback. So customers are the best resources for our innovations. We're not that smart, so they use it on a day-to-day basis. They come up with fantastic ideas that we create. So please share with us. We would be really appreciative about that, and send that email to info@comstice.com, and we will follow up. And as I said, we've got webinars once every week these days. Mobile customer engagement, how we can use omni-channel as a mobile first. That's very critical, I think. Lots of customers are thinking about AI chatbots, etc. But the web chat is very limiting. Mobile persistent chat is the way forward. And how can we do that without building an app, without promoting an app? Building an app is easy. Promoting the app is the tricky one. So how can we do that? We will discuss that in the coming webinars. If you can check comstice.com/webinar, you will see the information there as well.